welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. For this week, I wanted to give you all a little bit of an update on our cat Basil. So if you haven't been to my Twitch channel before, you probably won't know, unless you've watched some of the previous YouTube videos as well, that Mol and I do have a cat. His name is Basil. He's our absolute joy. And I wanted to give those of you that don't know a little bit of a rundown with the Basil story and where we are in the process of bringing him over to Australia as well. There might be some of you that's interested in the process themselves because they might be bringing a pet over to Australia as well. So I'll just put a timestamp where I explain the entire process from our perspective. And with that, I wanted to give a quick disclaimer as well. I'm not a pet agent. I am not any agent of any sort. This is just from personal experience. So if you do have specific questions, you can still ask. I'll see where I can help. But just so you all know, I am not a professional. This isn't my job. This is just what we've managed to organize. So just for those of you that don't know Basil, we adopted him last year in January of 2021. So we were back in South Africa and we were house sitting for one of my ex-bosses. And we were still staying with Mol's parents at the time. And when we got back to their house on Christmas Day, we just saw this little black shadow sitting out the front door. And Mol told me to be careful. We don't know if it's a stray. We don't know how friendly the cat is. And of course I was really careful. I put like a little bag between me and the cat. But before he even got to me, he just flopped down on the ground and he was rolling around. It was so cute. And I said to Mol, he's so friendly. He has to be someone's cat. We went through every effort to try and find his owners. But the most likely case was that Basil came from one of the local wildcat colonies. And even though no one stepped forward, I just couldn't leave him behind in a shelter when both Mol and I just absolutely fell in love with him. So now that you have a little bit of a backstory with Basil, I wanted to get into the process of everything we've had to do and what it's been like trying to get Basil from overseas to Australia. So first off, I know you can DIY this entire process, but Mol and I decided to go through an agent. So the first step was finding someone that can do the RNATT test. If you don't know what the RNATT test is, it's basically where they just draw the pet's blood. And I say pets because they do this with cats and dogs. And the blood draw needs to happen at least 180 days before you intend for your pet to travel. So from the day that the blood gets at the lab until it gets cleared is 180 days, so a 6-month process. It is extremely long, I know. Some veterinarians do it, but not all of them do. We, by chance, came across a kennel and cattery that actually has a state veterinarian on the premises. So they were able to help us out. They took Basil's blood and they sent it off to lab. And the reason for the RNATT test is because South Africa is a level 3 rabies country, which means rabies is very prevalent and very high, whereas Australia is a level 1, which means there is little to no rabies cases in the country. And because rabies can be spread on from animal to human, they take it very seriously, and we can understand that they take every precaution possible not to bring rabies into the country. This will also vary from country to country, so I recommend doing your own research before you even think about doing the RNATT test. So once we had Basil's accommodation sorted, we could start looking into people that can help actually get him on a flight or transportation from South Africa to Australia. And in case you don't know, the only quarantine site for animals that I know of is in Melbourne. So take that into consideration whenever you're planning for your pet to go over. And I'll get into that in just a second. So the company that we are working for with the housing and the import permit actually go hand in hand with another company that tackle the entire travel process from Johannesburg in South Africa to Melbourne to the quarantine site. So they made a custom wood crate for Basil, and let me tell you, flights from overseas to Melbourne is so expensive. So that is something you need to prepare yourself for. It's a very long and very, very, very expensive process. So now we have the accommodation sorted, we have the flight sorted to Melbourne. What happens next? We're still waiting on the import permit. There is backlog with that, unfortunately. So we're hoping to hear back about the import permit somewhere within the next week or two. And once we have the import permit, we can start filling in the details and hopefully booking the quarantine in Melbourne. So the quarantine in Melbourne is 2,000 Australian dollars and it's just for 10 days. So according to my understanding, what they do in the quarantine is that they check that your pet doesn't have any internal or external parasites or any other diseases they need to be aware of. And once your pet is cleared, they can finally go home. But the process doesn't stop there for you, because if you're not in Melbourne itself, you have to think about getting your pet from Melbourne to wherever you are. And for us, that's in Brisbane. So the next step is to get someone that can potentially go pick your pet up from the quarantine side of Melbourne, take them to the airport, get them on another flight, and then you either have the option of picking your pet up from the airport or to have someone deliver your pet straight to your home. So throughout the video, I've talked about the time, how long it takes, and that it is expensive, but I haven't given actual numbers. So for the costs, depending on the size, the breed, the species, everything about your pet, can look at anything from 8,000 AUD up to 14,000 AUD. So like I said, really expensive. It depends on your country of origin. It depends on how long they will stay in the kennels and the quarantine and all of that. And everything for Basil is working out more expensive because he's been at the cattery since the end of July. And he will most likely stay there until the end or middle October. And for the stay at the cattery alone, it's $20 a day. So that might not seem like a lot, but when you multiply it by how long he's had to stay there, it's all the small things that do end up making such a huge financial difference in the end. So we are still in the waiting period right now. Like I said before, we're waiting for Basil's import permit. So it feels like we're still so far away from actually getting him here. But the idea of having Basil home has been enough to get me a more by. So with all that said, I'll keep you all up to date with the process. As soon as we hear something, I will let you all know. And just as another little update, I hope the video quality is a little bit better. I did finally get a ring light and I did finally have the chance to plug in my Elgato mic. So there it is. Have all of my old streaming gear set up again, so hopefully you can see and hear me a little bit better. I also want to thank all of you for your feedback on my previous videos. I really appreciate all of your input. If you have any more comments or suggestions on what you would like to see to improve the videos, please let me know as well. I really appreciate all of the advice and feedback all of you give. If you're not part of the community Discord, please do go join there. I try to update there as much as possible as well. And if you would like to keep up to date with day-to-day stuff or read more about my art commissions, I'm the_PurpleJ on all social media, and I'll leave a link to my website down below as well. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't, please do subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can get notified with my future videos. And if you liked the video, please do leave a like down below. For this week's comment, I want to hear if you've ever had a pet, or if you do currently have a pet, to tell me more about them. And if you don't have a pet, let me know, would you ever want one? And with all that said, I hope you all have an amazing morning, afternoon or evening wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you all again with the next one.